Welcome back to Parks and Relaxation. This is day 10 of our cross-country RV road trip from New York to California and back to New York. This leg of the journey took about 12 hours in total. There's about 300 miles of driving, and only about 5 hours of driving. The rest was done exploring. We started that morning at Mill Casino in Oregon on the coast, right on the 101 highway. To get to this beach that you're seeing now, this is Arizona Beach State Park. You have to drive about an hour and a half down the 101. It puts you about a half hour from the California border, which brings you right into Redwood State Forest. After a week of being cramped in the camper all together, we were pretty excited to get out and stretch our legs. A little sand and wetness in the RV was nothing we were afraid of at this point. We were just happy to see the water. Our little family of 4 has been here before, but the rest of our group had never seen the Pacific Ocean, so we took a few minutes here to really take it in. There's plenty of parking. There were a couple other Class C motorhomes here. The beach is so large that you don't really run into anybody. You can definitely space out. This was mid-June and about 75 degrees, just perfect Oregon weather. The kids and adults were playing in the water for about an hour. Decided that we were getting hungry for lunch. This is around 11 o'clock. So we went back to the RV and started making some sandwiches and got some last pictures. It is very windy on the coast, and after our lunch almost blew away on us and we ate half sand, half sandwich, we packed up and started heading towards our next leg of the journey. We knew from here we had about an hour drive to the Redwood Forest National Park. We had a couple main stops and trees we wanted to see within the forest. There's no charge to access the Redwood Forest. It's little known, but the main highway 101 actually intersects directly through the state park. You can see everything from tourists to semis coming through here. What's crazy is on the main road you can actually see where trucks have hit the trees and taken huge chunks out. I'm sure the damage to the trucks are much worse, but it's pretty crazy that you can see it. There's a few famous trees in this park. Our favorite is Corkscrew Tree. That was the one that we wanted to show our friends the most. These trees can be anywhere from 40 to 70, even 100 foot around. This specific tree actually has 5 trees growing inside it.
You're such a pain in the butt.
As it grew, it intertwined and created Corkscrew Tree. This is the walk to get to it. If you pull up Google, you can actually just type Corkscrew Tree, California, and it'll bring you direct instructions on how to get to the walking trail to view it. The trail is flat and only about a quarter-mile long. What's fun is it actually feels like you're walking back into Jurassic Park because the ferns are oversized, the trees are oversized. It's pretty wild. Videos and camera don't do justice. We tried to kind of get a picture of one of these trees next to a telephone pole. I couldn't find that photo in our images, but it looks like a toothpick. And if you know a telephone pole, it can take out a car. So the fact it looks like a toothpick next to one of these trees is pretty insane. This is one of the routes with my daughter. She's about 5 foot tall. To put it into perspective, we're able to do whole family photos inside the trees. At this point, we finally made it back to Corkscrew Tree. As you can see, the roots are kind of intertwined and there's a tree just twisting within itself. At this point, so many people have been inside it, it's kind of like a tree house. You can go up and play, there's different levels. The kids can kind of monkey around on it for about an hour. This is all 7 of us in the base of the tree. Next, we jumped back in the RV and headed towards Big Tree. The main ranger outpost is about 20 minutes into the park, and there's a walking trail just south of that actually brings you to Big Tree. It's not the biggest tree in the park, but it's the most accessible big tree. There's a large parking area, and there's actually a walking tour where you can you turn this knob and it powers up a voice that'll kind of give you the history of the area. It's pretty inventive and cool.
See, I think this is cool, the moss enough for blisters like that.
And once you make your way over to Big Tree, there's actually a deck right in front of it where you can stop and pose for photos, and it gives you some of the stats.
Height 286 meters, 23.7 feet wide. Yeah. Circumference 74.5 feet. Wait, feet? Yeah. Estimated.
These trees can be over 1,500 years old, and they can actually withstand forest fires. The bark is so thick that it just kind of burns a little bit and falls off. One cool thing about this area is that there's roadside attractions all over. So you can actually go into where people have made houses by just taking a fallen over tree, carving it out, and living in it. The walking trail over near Big Tree, there's a couple options. There's one that's like a half mile, and then there's a few that are like between 5 and 10 miles long. We did the quick loop because we had to do other things, but obviously there's plenty of spots to play, and actually you can go inside of the trees and see up in them. After doing the loop, we jumped in the RV and headed to our next stop, Avenue of the Giants. It's a road that parallels the 101. It's actually not part of the Redwood National Forest, so if you have never heard of it, you need to type it in, look it up. This is what the page looks like to bring you to it. It's basically an hour-and-a-half long road that instead of taking the main highway,
Are you gonna go into the tree?
Yes.
You're gonna climb under there?
Never.
All right, show us slowly. Go back slowly.
here's a quick tour of the inside of a tree from my son Sebastian. At this point, we knew it was time to start wrapping it up. We had about a 2-hour drive to get down to Benbow KOA. It's right at the start of the U.S. Coastal Highway number 1, the one that lots of people have written songs about. It's a pretty famous twisty road, and we wanted to do it in the RV, even though it's not recommended. This is the KOA that we decided on. We got a decent parking spot and was able to do some laundry and get showers. It's actually in a great location, only about 5 minutes from the start of the number 1 highway. The next day was going to be interesting. The length restrictions on number 1 highway are only about 30 foot, and we're 32. We decided to risk it. So, stay tuned. Please like and subscribe. And remember, don't wait, adventure today. Thanks.